guys, welcome to Jantmor Interviews. I'm your host, Jantmor, and you guys are here for my amazing, wonderful guest, Chris Edgerly, who has voiced Hidan in Naruto, Edgecast in Clone Wars, and Pathfinder in the amazing Battle Royale Apex Legends. Chris, welcome to my stream. Thank you so much for joining me. It is an honor to be speaking to you right now.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be speaking with you. You'd like to go by Jantmor or Josh? Because you got them both up there.
You can call me Josh. Some people around call me Jantmor, and I freak out. I'm like, who's that? But I'm like, oh, wait, that's my username.
So where does Jantmor come from? I'm going to start interviewing you. How about that? Where does Jantmor come from? How's that gamer tag come about?
So Jantmor was me and my friends. I was like, I hate my Instagram username because my old Instagram username used to be MCOC_Josh, and people kept making fun of me. And I was like, this needs to go like immediately. So me and my friends like brainstorming, and they were like, hey, why don't you come up with Jantmor? It's like, what's Jantmor? They're like, because I told them my full name, and full name is Joshua Anthony Morales, and J stands for Josh and Anthony Moore Morales, and that's how you got Jantmor. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. There it is.
One thing that when I was looking into your stuff was I found out something really cool. You went to the University of Georgia.
Yes.
And I'm living in Georgia right now. I live not too far from there, actually. I'm thinking about applying to that college too. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, where are you, in North Georgia? You around Atlanta or?
Yeah, I'm around Atlanta.
So yeah, I grew up in Savannah, and I just don't have an accent anymore. I lost it a long time ago. But I grew up there, and I went to, at the time it was called Armstrong State College, I think, and then they changed it. I don't know what it is. I think it's part of Georgia Southern now. So my first 2 years, I just went to a local school because I didn't have the money to go anywhere. I had gotten accepted to Georgia as a freshman, but I didn't have the money to go, and I apparently was too lazy and neglectful to fill out financial aid forms. So I did 2 years at a local college, had some fun, and then my mom said, if you need to go to a big school, you need to fill out the financial aid forms, get off your butt and do it. So I got off my butt and did it, and I got like a combination of Pell Grants and student loans and small scholarships, and I was able to go my junior and senior year, and that's where I discovered acting and stand-up comedy. And after I was graduated from there, I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into stand-up, and I'm going to get into acting. And I moved down to Orlando about a year or so after that, and that's where I sort of started my showbiz career, as it were. So there you go. All happened in the deep South. All happened in the dirty South.
What's one childhood memory you would say that describes you as a person?
Some people would have said annoying. I would say colorful. I was outgoing. I had a lot to say. Although, on the inside, a lot of insecurity. It's not an uncommon thing for us artists. But I gradually, into my adulthood, had to work through a lot of that. But yeah, as a kid, my dad's nickname for me was the Mouth of the South. So yeah, I had a big mouth. I had a big mouth. It got me into trouble sometimes, and it's a good thing I had older brothers, because I would have gotten my butt kicked all up and down the street because of my big mouth. Yeah.
You remind me just of my little brother. He just keeps yaps and yaps. I mean, I love him, but like I'll be in my room, I might playing the game, and he'd be like, Joshua, come look at this, And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And then it's like immediately when I come back into my room and I'm about to sit down, it's immediately, hey Joshua, let me show you. And it's just like he's going.
Yeah. Yep.
Just as a kid, what did you imagine you would be doing? Did you always envision yourself in the show business?
As a kid, I didn't think about it as much. The first memories I had of thinking about what I wanted to do as an adult was being a writer, because I used to like to write stories. And I used to be a decent distance runner as a kid, which was weird because I was really skinny and I was really short. But I could run a pretty good mile time for like a 12 or 13-year-old. And I thought, I'm just going to be a runner. And as I got older, I realized I didn't really enjoy it that much. People got faster than me. And so I kept thinking more and more about writing. And then I started thinking about, maybe journalism. And that's what I got my degree in at Georgia. And then while I was busy getting that degree, it was focusing on radio, TV, and film, or telecommunication arts, as they called it. And that's when I discovered performing, and I pivoted. But as a kid, it was still creative stuff. But this just goes to show you out there, things change. You pivot, your interests change, your experiences change you. So you never just get glued to one idea, keep things open.
My mom is always surprised that I'm doing this right now, because when I was a little kid, I would always talk about, I want to be the president of the United States. I know the three branches of the government back and forth.
Right.
And I talk to her all the time about being the president. And then she's like, well, Joshua, what happened to that? And I was like, I looked into it, and I don't ever want to do that job ever.
I know what, everybody hates the president.
Yeah, everybody.
They can never do anything right. Well, half the country will love them no matter what, and half the country will hate them no matter what. And I don't want that job. Yeah,
I see the dust in their hair as well. I do not want gray hairs at that age.
Yeah, you look at Obama when he came into office, and then when he left, and look at George W. when he came into office and when he left. They're changed people. Trump looks exactly the same, but that's because he has spray tan, and that's not his natural hair color. And that guy looked unnatural before he came in. He's leaving looking unnatural. So I don't even want to speculate on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So for voices, of course, you're a voice actor. How did that get introduced into your life?
Yeah, a lot of this is just still as a kid. I was always doing voices. I had a pretty good ability to mimic. And so I was mimicking different celebrities and entertaining my brothers with it. And then you expand your circle. You start entertaining your friends and then strangers. And then when you're in school, you try it out. And oddly enough, in high school, I was not the class clown. I went to an all-boys military school. So, and I was still skinny and still short. So, you're just trying not to get, pounded every day. You're just trying to sort of slip by unnoticed a lot. And then you find your pocket. And so you find your occasion to make a little wisecrack, or, you write a short story, or you draw a little picture. So I didn't start really doing anything with it again until college, until I got exposed to an acting class. Some guys I knew were going to do stand-up at a local pizza joint at night in the bar downstairs, and that's where I tried stand-up for the first time. It was in fact 30 years ago in October. It was the first time I tried stand-up, and I worked the voices into it. So my first stand-up set ever I did was a really hacky bit, but it was just celebrities ordering at a McDonald's, but it killed because everybody likes voices. And I thought, oh, okay, I could do stand-up and I could do these voices. And I didn't start zeroing in on voiceover as a career, as my sole career, until I'd gotten kind of burned out on being on the road as a comic. And that took a few years. So again, it's usually, for me, it's not one decision and I'm suddenly focusing only on that. I just sort of gradually come around to these things.
Right. That's the same for me. I have I have so many interests. You can see guitar.
Yeah, you got a guitar there.
Yeah. I love music. I love film. I'm all over the place. I love baseball. I can't pick one thing. There's always somewhere for me to go.
Yeah, so. And there's no need to pick one thing. We're growing up. I mean, you're growing up. I'm old now, but I have kids. I got a 7 and a 9-year-old, and we're homeschooling them, and we're teaching them not to just think you're going to do one thing for the rest of your life. You might have 5 or 6 careers in your life, or more than that, and you might be in love with each and every one of them. And then one day you may think it's time to pivot. It's time for me to do something else. So yeah, enjoy all of those things and get good at all of those things, because it rounds you out as a person. It makes you more interesting as a person. And every time a pathway is cut off, you have another one to choose from. So what if you broke your hand, and while it's mending, you can't play the guitar? All right, what other interests do you have? You got something else you can throw yourself into. Because if you're all about one thing, if that thing gets taken away from you, and it can, then what else you got? So it's nice to have these different avenues of enthusiasm. I
know people who just have one thing, and I always wonder what happens if I don't know if it's
Yeah.
kind of messed up if I think about this, but I'm like, what
It's
if,
okay.
like, like their knee or something happens, or they like tear their ACL. Like, you have one thing, and it's kind of like over for you once you get to that point.
Yeah, I was taught by a very wise man. I worked with a cognitive behavioral therapist when I was in my 30s because I had to learn how to get a handle on this beehive of a brain I have. And he taught me that you need multiple pathways for getting fulfillment in your life. Freedom, he said, basically is having different ways that you can go to make yourself feel good, to do something fulfilling and satisfying. And so, yeah, because things happen to you that you have no control over. So, like, watch the NFL or watch college football. These are highly tuned athletes. These are elite level athletes. And every single game, somebody gets carried off the field because something beyond their control happened. And now for 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes for months, every now and then for a career, it's done. You got to have those other pathways.
What was your first big role in a series or a game?
I would say, let's see, I'd have to go back to my IMDb to be really accurate on this, but I remember the first thing that I got that made me a regular on a series was doing Peter Potamus for Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. And that was around, I think, 2003 was when I got to join that cast. And the first time that I was cast as like the lead in a series is probably around 2005 for Celebrity Deathmatch. When they brought it back for MTV2 right around 2005, I got to do 2 lead voices in that. And I've gotten to do like a lot of big games, but there's not really any that stand out as my first big thing. But one of my earliest games that I did where I got to be the lead on it was for Van Helsing, the movie with Hugh Jackman. They did a video game based on the movie, and I voice matched Hugh Jackman. So I was basically Van Helsing in the game. So that was one of those times where, as a mimic, a lot of times you don't know you can do someone's voice because you've never tried it. And then they play you a sample and you go, oh, okay. And then you find out you can do it. That was one of the first times I realized, oh, I could voice match different people that I'd never considered, and it could lead to being the lead in a game. So yeah, those things stand out.
People, voice actors that I've spoken to before always talk about injecting themselves into a character, whether you're doing your role in like Harvey Birdman or something. How would you describe yourself as a person? How would you say that affects the voices that you create?
Well, I think everybody puts something of themselves in a performance because it's your interpretation. So you're bringing your ideas and your experiences to it. And I as far as describing myself, I mean, I'm still like that gregarious kid. I'm just a bit more strategic in what I say and to who I say it. But I still have a lot of ideas in my head, and I've become more disciplined, obviously, as you progress throughout your career. You come up with a technique, and so you learn how to take elements of yourself and inject them into the character, but you learn that you're still supposed to play a character and not yourself, just your idea of the character. So there's 2 basic schools of thought on acting, and one is the method, which means you have to actually convince yourself that you are in this situation, and the other is basically pretend, and you're giving a portrayal of those feelings and thoughts and actions, and whichever one works for you, whichever one ends up with the performance you're satisfied with. So, yeah, I don't know how well that answers your question, but that's my approach. That's my approach.
Now let's talk about the reason that I was really looking forward to bringing you on. Hidan in Naruto is literally one of my favorite characters of all time. My favorite Akatsuki member. I just love it. And
he's a piece of work, that one. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. He's immortal. He can't die.
They've tried. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still on Shippuden though, but I just enjoyed when he came on the screen, his presence, of course, what you brought to the table, how you made his voice, his crazy laugh, because in the Japanese version, because I was looking at people who have voiced Hidan, and the Japanese version has this crazy maniacal laughter.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could pull it up, but it's have you heard it? It's like insane.
I have.
Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot of respect. I wish I knew the actor's name, but I have a lot of respect and admiration for who originated that voice, because I'm just doing the English dub. I'm just doing the American Hedon. That's his character. And I just took over translating is the way I look at it. So they play you the clip of, all right, here's the performance, and now here's what you're going to do. And so I'll do my riff on that. And I hear that maniacal laugh, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do the Chris Edgerly Hedon, which is more, you know, he's a, I don't know what language I can use. He's a jerk. It's a very, very polite way of saying he is an absolute jerk. And he's got a jerky kind of insane laugh, and just he's just the guy you want to punch, right? And so, yeah, that's how I go from there. And of course, he's 10 times more despicable than anything I just described. But when I hear the original Japanese performance, I think, man, that's a high bar to have to clear. That guy's amazing.
When you were auditioning for Naruto, did you realize what you were getting into?
No, I didn't really, and I don't even remember the audition. I mean, we're very fortunate, us VO people. We can get a lot of auditions in a day or in a week, and you record it, you send it out, and you forget about it because you got other things that are coming down the pipe. And so I don't even remember auditioning for it. I truly don't. That I speculate sometimes that maybe I didn't audition for it, that maybe I was handed the part because Mary McGlynn, who I've interviewed on my stream and who has directed a lot of these episodes and who is a wonderful actress in her own right, thought of me and said, yeah, you'd be a good Hedon. But I don't know if she even made the casting choice. I honestly don't know the origin of all this, but it felt like I just sort of walked in the door and I was Hedon. So I don't know if it was that simple. I might have actually had to earn it, an audition. So yeah, I couldn't tell you.
It must be a blessing to be able to say that you have so many roles. I mean, like, we're going to talk more in depth about, of course, all the other roles that you voiced. But, of course, like The Simpsons, I looked into it, and you appeared in, like, over 200 episodes. So you're in a lot.
Yeah, what I do on The Simpsons is I round out the edges for them. I fill in the cracks because they have a phenomenal cast and they're capable of doing everything. But I think sometimes they just want, for like a tiny role here or there, they want a different voice just to fill things out a bit. And that's where I come in. And then I'm there for the table reads too, to help, if somebody's out, I can fill in. And so I am the purest form of utility player on that show. I call myself a Swiss Army knife. It's like, what do you need? You need a corkscrew? Got that. You need a blade? Okay. You need a fingernail or whatever. I got that. So I fill in. It's not glamorous at all, except it's on the greatest show of all time. So it's glamorous in that way. But and frankly, all acting to me is glamorous because it's an awesome job. But yes, over 11 seasons, because I just finished recording season 32 with them. And so for me, that was my 11th season. And so, yeah, over that many seasons, you get so many shots at, creating these tiny little voices here and there. Just they exist on the edges, and I'm thrilled to have that. Absolutely thrilled. It's the greatest job I'll ever have.
And speaking of voices, how did you create the voice for Hedon?
Honestly, that is where you put yourself into it, because they say, okay, here's the Japanese voice, but we don't want you to sound like him. I mean, that's his performance because that's the character, but we want Chris Edgerly's version of that. And they know when they get me, I sometimes have this kind of voice where I just I'm too cool for school, and yeah, I'm a little too casual, and then you start making him a really horrible person who has a short temper. And before you know it, you're Hedon. And so, yeah, you just take this guy, this jerky guy who has no patience. He's a child. And he doesn't deal with disappointment well. He doesn't deal with conflict well at all. He just immediately wants to kill and sacrifice to his lord Jashin, and he's absolutely despicable, but you have to approach that from a human point of view. And so the personality they wanted is something like that. They said, yeah, I think they knew choosing me, they were going to get that version of it, because they could have chosen a different actor to bring a different facet to it. But I think they wanted that facet. So that's where it came in.
Right, yeah, like I was watching a couple of days ago the arc where Hidan comes in, he's like fighting Asuma and Shikamaru, and you can tell like Hidan is just like, he has a temper. He was talking to Kakuzu, who's voiced by Fred Tatasciore.
Fred Tatasciore, yeah.
And Kakuzu was like, if you needed my help, you could have asked, and like Hidan was like, leave me alone, I got it, I'll kill him.
Yeah.
He was just in there for the kill, and he's very reactionary, and like you said, he doesn't deal with disappointment very well.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not a role model for anybody. So he's just awful. He's everything you don't want to do is what Hedon does as a first reaction. Yeah.
What makes Hedon so dangerous?
Well, he's got two things. One, he can't appear to die, apparently. I mean, you can do everything to him. You can draw and quarter him and cut his head off and all that. He's still going to be barking at you as you walk away. So there's always going to be a chance for vengeance, even if you win. And the other thing is that once he gets into the ritual, once he becomes the sort of black and white Hedon, any damage he does to himself or is done to him happens to you. And that's pretty tough to overcome, especially if you weren't looking for that, especially if that catches you off guard, which it invariably does. With that, I guess a third wrinkle is the fact that he's that evil. He's willing to do whatever he needs to do to win. So once you mix it up with him, you got to be ready.
He reminds me a little bit of Deadpool. I mean, like, they're completely different characters, but they're both immortal. They can't die. They're kind of cocky and jerky to people around them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If Deadpool became an absolute psychopath, it would be Hedon.
It'd be Hedon.
Yeah.
Why do you believe Hedon is the way he is? He's crazy. He worships this joshing, like you said. Why do you think he's like been driven to this point of insanity?
That I couldn't say because I don't know his entire backstory, but I can say, just knowing what I know about human psychology, if you devote yourself to that negative of a path in life, either you were twisted to begin with or it's going to twist you. As they say, you get what you think about. And that's all that guy thinks about. And so what's that going to make you as a person? I mean, what were you like as a person to start out with, And the fact that that's all that's on your mind, that's what you're going to become. So you become what you do and what you think.
Kind of reminds me of, reminds me of a lot of characters, honestly. It reminds me of Deadpool. He reminds me of the Joker. I mean, not just because of the laugh, but just because of the point that he's been driven to. I mean, you see he's like psychotic. I mean, he drinks blood, I mean, he'll cut you with the side and lick the side and do his little ritual to you to kill you. I mean,
some people are just bad. Some people are just bad.
Downright evil. What intrigues you the most about Hedon?
Well, I mean, it's rare that you come across a character that is just this pure badness. And that's it. No apologies for it. Because I've said this many times, he's easily the most despicable character I've ever played. But he's also kind of the most fun to play for that reason. Because you can just throw caution to the wind. You don't have to be that subtle. You can just sort of lean into it and enjoy it as a performance. So that's fun. It's fun to do as an actor. We love to eat up the scenery whenever they let us.
What does Hedon bring out of you, this crazy, demented character?
I would say if I look at like the worst elements of myself, the fact that I'm not as patient as I could be, the fact that I have, sometimes a little bit of crazy energy, you can let those things out and just give them room to play. And Tommy Lee Jones, an amazing actor who's won an Oscar and been nominated multiple times, is a very smart guy too. Somebody, an interview once asked him, are you this way or are you that way? And he says, I'm all of these things. Everyone is everything. So we just have dominant traits. We have more recessive traits. Everyone has it in them to have a bad day, to have a short temper, to think of something diabolical. Doesn't mean you act on it. Doesn't mean you have any judgment on the thought other than the fact that it sort of passed through your brain in that moment. And so if you're aware of those things and they ask you to play a character that is all about those things, it's okay. All right, well, I know what I can tap into.
I think that's the beauty of being an actor. I remember I was talking to T.C. Carson a while ago. He played Kratos in the original God of War video game. And he talked about how through Kratos, he let out all this anger and rage, because Kratos is a very angry character. I mean, we see it through his actions. He's killing gods, screaming at people, you know.
Right, yeah. Gary Oldman, the actor, said, I thought this is interesting. He says, everyone thinks it's cathartic to let these emotions out, and then they're gone forever. He says, they're not gone forever. It's like a snow globe. You shake it up, and you let them sort of fall and then settle, and then they're there until you shake it up again. So that is kind of what it's like, yeah. I mean, if those things were in you to begin with, unless you, like, do therapy to work on them and see why they're there and perhaps resolve the things that brought them up, they're always going to be there. It's just if you're a mature adult, you don't act on them. You see what they are. And you say, okay, that's kind of an evil impulse. I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm going to put that aside and recognize that I'm just a human being who has, imperfect thoughts sometimes.
What? Were you satisfied where Hedon's story went?
I think for a guy like that, I mean, at least the last I was aware of where he ended up is probably what he deserves. I mean, at least I don't know what happens. I don't know if what I've recorded recently has been released yet, but usually it's because they've already seen it in Japan. So I think he gets out of that jam he's in where they've like cut his head off and left him, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't say for sure. I'd say if the guy's immortal, one of these days he might find a way to get out. But the last I think we're for sure aware of is that he's stuck in this place in the forest where they kind of left him. And if that's the last thing that happens to him, he deserved it. They always say don't judge your character when you're playing them, because then you're stepping outside of that character, and instead you should be where the character is up here. But now that I'm outside of Hidan, I'd say, drawn and quartered and headless in the forest is where that guy deserves to be. So I'm fine with that. Yeah.
I freaked out when you said Hedon might escape. That'd be so cool to see, like Hedon in what's Baruto or something. I haven't gotten to Baruto yet. I'm still on Shippuden, but that'd be so cool to just like see him again.
Yeah.
What you played Hedon in Shippuden, and I think you played him in a movie, right?
I don't know if it was in a movie or not, because I've done these different recording sessions, and they'll tell me, all right, this is for a game, and this is for the show, and this is for something else, and I'll just forget instantly when they tell me. Because I'm thinking, all right, well, so let me do put me in front of the script, and let me give you what you're looking for. And then they'll tell me something about it, and I think, okay, I'm going to use that for this, but I actually have no idea. They may have used something I've done for a movie with him in it, I don't know. So, could be.
What do you think Hidan brings to the world of Naruto?
I mean, there are a lot of huge struggles in that world, right? There's always good guys and bad guys, and a hero is only as good as their villain. So he provides that villain. He provides, one of the many, many villains in Naruto. And also the imagination of that show. I'm always floored by the imagination of anime. What the Japanese animators and writers and voice actors can come up with is astonishing to me. And so there's an expectation that anime fans have. So if you're going to watch an anime, you're going to expect these things. Really, strong animation, vibrant colors, spectacular action sequences, and a lot of crescendos, a lot of peaks. And I would say Naruto for sure has that, and Hidan definitely has crescendos, definitely has action scenes. He definitely has, a character. And again, I give credit to the actor who originated the character. So I'm doing my best to hold up my end of that. But that's what I think he brings. I think he brings the kinds of things that you both expect and hope for.
Now let's switch over from a crazy and evil character to sort of a calm and relaxed character, Ethos in the Clone Wars. Now,
Yeah.
I know you only played him for an episode,
just
but
one.
what was it like working on the Clone Wars, even for just an episode?
It was awesome. It was awesome because I grew up, I was born in 1969. All right. So I was 8 when Star Wars came out. And I saw it in the theater 5 times. So when A New Hope came out, I was there 5 times. Those movies really meant something to me. And then when Empire Strikes Back came out, 5 times. When Jedi came out, 5 times. So I was 8, I was 11, I was 14. Each of those movies I saw multiple times. I read the comic. I even watched The Droids, which was a cartoon that came on in the early 80s. And so with C-3PO and R2-D2, I was all about it. I had the toys. I had everything. I grew up with it. It was part of my psyche. It was part of my childhood. Those were my heroes. And then one day, as a 30-something-year-old, you hear, you get to be a Jedi. And you think, yes, bucket list. Bucket list item checked off. It's like, it's only 1 episode. I don't care. I think he dies in the episode. We're not sure. I don't care. And unfortunately, I didn't get to read with the rest of the cast because I was working on something else that day and I had to come in later in the day. And so I worked by myself, but it was with Dave Filoni. So, and Dave at the time was already a big deal because he's basically sort of responsible for that series. And now, as we know, he's had a much bigger hand in the world of Star Wars. But back then, it's just Dave and me and an engineer working out this character there in the studio. And it was awesome. It was great. And I think he told me, too, he was very casual. He said, yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't think he's going to die in this episode, but if we bring you back, it'll be to kill him. So you may never come back. And if you do, it'll probably be so we can kill him off. And none of that happened. It's just, he didn't die in the episode. And I have no idea what happened to him after that because I've never had a chance to watch all the episodes. So you tell me.
Yeah, I was about to tell you. So in the comic books, they have a series of Darth Vader comic books. He didn't die in the TV show. But, after Order 66, I don't know if you watched the prequels, but after Order
I've seen the prequels.
Okay. So, after Order 66, to, hunt down Jedi, so Vader has to, hunt down all the remaining Jedi as well, and he hunts down Ethos and, slaughters him, he kills him, he's dead, so Darth Vader killed him. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to get took out, should be by Vader. It should be by the man.
Do you keep up with Star Wars still, or are you just too busy?
I don't have the time. I wish I could. There's so much of it. I mean, it used to be if you saw the movies, you were up on it, but not anymore. There's the movies, there's the series, the 2 different animated series. There's The Mandalorian, which I've just started to get into, and I don't have time because I have 2 kids. So I have 2 kids. I have a stream. I have my own creative stuff I do. I have my regular voiceover stuff. And I'm pulling back from my other creative stuff so I can have more time to be a dad and a husband. And so that means I get maybe 2 hours at night to watch what I want to watch, and it's hard. It's a lot to choose from. But yeah, I think I want to use The Mandalorian to get me back into that world.
You picked a perfect show. Me and my friends who were reviewing it, and we were talking about how it's a perfect way to get people who haven't seen you've seen Star Wars, but it's a perfect way to get people into the Star Wars universe and get them interested. I'm not going to spoil anything for you because watch that. It's amazing. It's great.
Yeah.
But there's so much that is from the animated series that they bring in, but they do it so well. And you don't even have to watch the cartoons to get it. I won't spoil it, but there's a lot of cartoons that they show that you don't have to watch to get. So it's perfect for people who haven't seen it. How did you create the voice for Ethos? Because I'm very intrigued by that because he has an accent to him.
Yeah. In the breakdown, which is the description of the character you get in the audition, this is probably 07, I guess. I'm not sure when the episode aired, but I think it would have been 07 or early 08, maybe, when we recorded it. The character, now this is all happening in space, so you can say the character sounds like they're from here, but that's just so you have a frame of reference. So they said, we want something that has sort of an Indian flavor of an accent to it, but he's not Indian because they're in space. There's no India, wherever it is they are, but we like that idea. And when I booked it, Dave told me, he says, I heard a lot of the more standard Indian accents you're used to hearing. Yours was softer, and it was a bit more, my S's were softer. They were a bit more sibilant, as they would say. And it's more finessed. And he said, yeah, I want to go down that road with it. Because, I didn't want to do what people are used to hearing. Again, because it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So they want to take something that we are aware of and reshape it.
I just love when you do your voices. I'm hearing it live. I hear these voices on the TV screen. I don't see you like creating. It's just so cool to see you making them and sound like Edgecast or sound like Hedon. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So,
well, that was our process for it. You start with this idea, you take it from there, and then you use it all within the context of the show. So again, nothing that nothing sort of overwrought. Just a suggestion of an accent, and that was about it. Because I don't know where Edgecast is from, and I didn't know anything about his history. I just knew he's Jedi. This is his personality. This is the way of the Jedi. We want him to sound this way, and there's a sort of distinguished aspect to his voice. And like you said, he's a bit more reserved. The way of the Jedi is to not lose your temper, but to take your aggression and to focus it. And that is why I kicked General Grievous's butt in that scene before he cheated, because Edgecast was winning that fight, as we all see from the show. And Grievous cheated, so what are you going to do?
Let's switch over into a more recent thing you've done, and I would say is one of your biggest things you've done is Apex Legends. My friend literally was freaking out when I told him I was speaking to you. He's like, Josh, oh my God, you're speaking of Pathfinder. I was like, I'm speaking of Pathfinder. It's nothing.
Lots of people talk to Pathfinder.
What was the audition process like for getting into Apex Legends?
That again, it's people aren't aware. We're always telling people this is what our life is like, but it's not something people are used to hearing. But I can get 15 or 20 auditions in a week that come through email, and some weeks are slower than others, but there's always something happening. And so you might have 5 auditions in one day, and Pathfinder's one of those auditions. So you're thinking about the other 4 as well, and you do 2, you do 3, and then here comes number 4, and it's Pathfinder. What is this? It's a video game. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know anything about it. I've never heard of this game. It hasn't existed yet. What is he? He's a robot. Okay. What does he sound like? Okay. Well, this is his breakdown. Very, very happy, very helpful, AI sounding. And I thought, okay. I got that, because the year before, or at least it was like earlier that year, I had done a voice for a movie called Passengers with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. And it was an AI voice. And in the movie, it's called The Infomat. And the breakdown for that was very helpful AI, very pleasant, no accent, just very helpful. So I took my own voice, because I'm a fairly clear speaker, and I just sort of softened it, and I just was very helpful, like a concierge at a hotel who's always there for you. And then everything the Infomat says ends with "happy to help," and that's it. And so when Pathfinder comes along, they want something like that, but times 10. They want more energy, and it's a fighting game. You're in the middle of all this action. And so I take "happy to help, friend," and you can do this and that, and you have to ratchet it up because you're in the Outlands. The next thing you know, you're shooting at people. And hey, this is still a great day. High five, friend. So the precursor to that was just a much gentler, kinder, gentler AI. I transplanted into this robot body, a lethal, grappling robot body, and I amp it way up. And so it was one audition, and I sent it in from home, from this very booth right here behind me. And then they had me do a callback out at Warner Brothers, where they do a lot of the recording for the game, at least pre-pandemic they did. And I worked with Eric Kraber and I think some of the writers and people working on the game. And they threw ideas at me, and I used them, and it went great. Next thing you know, I'm Pathfinder. But it was one audition from home, one call back, and done. And I had no idea that it would become this. None of us did. So yeah, I'm just happy that it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, they just had a recent season, if I'm correct.
Right. Like every season, we will go in and record new stuff. Usually there's either it's a new weapon, or it's some changes to the map, or there might be a short film that you'll have a voice in, or there might be an event, or there might be a trailer for an event, or a trailer for the new season, or you're going to interact with one of the new legends. And so every couple of months, there's something you get to go in and record. And so it's a wonderful gig in many respects. But just from a work standpoint, usually when you do a video game, like I was Medal of Honor, Respawn's Medal of Honor just came out, and I was Sarge in that. And that was a different experience because you're wearing a performance capture suit, and you do 3 different times we showed up and did 3 days of filming performance capture. And then you go into a studio and you do pickup lines that way. But once the game is out, you're pretty much done. And so I don't think there'll be any new audio content for that game, at least not that I'm aware of. Whereas with Apex, every 3 months, there's a new season. So there's more to do. And that's not often you get something like that.
Apex is a massive game. It's like you said, they have a season every 3 months. So what is it like working on this series with so many people? You have legends like Roger Craig Smith on the project. You have Johnny Young. Like, what is it like being in that environment?
It's really fun. I mean, you always record on your own, though. Even before the pandemic, you'd go in on your own. Now, every now and then, I would bump into a legend on the way out, like Justine, who's Watson. I've bumped into her before, and we take a picture and post it on Twitter and say, hey, look who I bumped into. And they've had a couple of parties where we were there and we all got to meet each other and, you know, the people we didn't know. And I've gotten to know the rest of them. And we have a little text thread that we're on. And we've done some Zoom meetings during the pandemic to keep in touch. So we've created a little community of, 13 people at this point. We add to it, obviously, every season. And some of us had already known each other and worked with each other, and some of us are just meeting for the first time. But yeah, it's become like a little family away from family.
That's what sucks about this pandemic is like you don't get parties or get to meet people in person. You have to do it like this and do Zoom and give it about 6 or 7 more months, and I think once the vaccine takes hold, fingers crossed, I think we're going to get together again. And I think a lot of things will lift. And I have told my fellow legends we need to have a big old party when the time comes. When we've all got our vaccination cards, everybody's safe, let's get together. So we're going to do that. What have you learned from working on Apex Legends?
Well, I learned a lot about weapons, I'll tell you that. I've been to the firing range when I was younger and fired a few things. But you learn, like from working on Apex Legends, you learn, or at least in my case, I've had it reinforced. I always knew games were a massive undertaking. Even the most modest games can be a massive undertaking. And I've learned through Apex that from the writer's point of view, these characters are very precious to them. They care a lot about the characters they create, about the choices they have those characters make, about the events that occur in the world of Apex, about the things that happen to those characters. Those writers really put their heart and soul into them. And a lot of times you can take that for granted, especially if there's a community that loves the game, but sometimes feels an ownership of those characters and doesn't realize that the people creating those characters have the same feeling of ownership. So sometimes there's going to be a little bit of a heated debate about these characters. I've learned the community of Apex is a very strong one, a very supportive one, but also can be a pretty demanding one. Not just things they want to see from the characters, but gameplay. There's certain things they want, there's certain things they don't want, and that the community that builds a game has to realize sometimes that there is a community that had to make the game. And that community is constantly trying to fix things or tweak things to keep the people playing it happy. So there are two communities that make a game, and when you do it right, they become one. The community that creates it, the community that supports it and allows it to exist. I think with Apex, you've got some of the best examples of that working. Yes, there can be some toxic people in the community, maybe people in gameplay that aren't that nice, maybe people in the community that demand a lot from the devs. But for the most part, I think it's overwhelmingly a very positive one. So I've learned just how positive and profound video games can be in a person's life. So I'm happy to learn that.
Games have helped me a great deal with either it's like processing emotions or just need to blow off some steam. Like I've been mad, my mom would say something, I'd be like, I get mad and I get on Black Ops and I just kill a bunch of zombies, let out my anger, headshot them a couple of times, you know. Yeah,
it's better than taking it to the streets. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
You live in LA, right?
I do.
Okay, so it's really tough over there because I've spoken to a lot of well, there's so much going on in California. There's a ton of voice actors, but I talk to people who live in LA and is talking about how it's very strict over there. How are you handling all of that? Like, you can't really do much over there.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do what we were used to doing, but I have, like everybody, I've got opinions on it, and my opinion is follow the science. If the science says you need to wear your mask and you need to stay indoors more, then do it, because it'll help us get to the other side of this thing. If it inconveniences you, well, yeah, but, you know, how does having half a lung feel? You know, how does seeing a family member waste away feel? How inconvenient is that? How is knowing that there's a good chance you infected somebody because you didn't want to be inconvenienced? Maybe that person has an immune system that can't handle it as well as yours did. You know, how inconvenient is that? So I understand the human impulse to not want to be told what to do. I understand the human impulse to say, man, I feel fine. I should be able to go out and do what I do normally, and I need to help the economy, and people are losing jobs. They are. My brother, his wife, and their son all lost their jobs on the same day, on my brother's birthday. He lives in Texas, because of the pandemic. And yet they follow the protocols because they don't want to get sick or they don't want to make somebody else sick, and they're hurting, but they're getting by. They're getting through it, and I'm happy that is happening. And hopefully we'll get a stimulus. But yeah, as far as California goes, most of the people are handling it. There's been some inconsistency, not just from the citizens, but from our leadership too. Let's acknowledge that they haven't been consistent either. But we all know at this point, no matter how hypocritical you may think someone is, everybody knows you should be wearing a mask. Everybody knows you should be keeping distance from each other, and we can find a way to figure this out. And so, yeah, it's inconvenient. And for some people, it's worse than that. They've lost their jobs, so I understand. My job has not been affected. I've not lost a single gig because I have a studio behind me and I can connect to any studio in the world. So I understand it's upsetting for a lot of people. It changes their lives in a profound way. But I also know that if we were to just throw caution to the wind and say, let's pretend the virus isn't here and everybody do exactly what they've been doing, we would be looking at way more deaths, way more sicknesses. And LA's hospitals right now, their ICU bed availability is 0%. And it's because a lot of people don't want to be inconvenienced, and great, well, now you've filled up the hospitals. So, you know, it's hard, but, you know, people got to be grown-ups about this and follow the protocols. We got a vaccine. It's insane that we have a vaccine this quickly. It has never happened before. It has never happened. We've gotten a vaccine that fast. Literally, it has never occurred. The quickest before, I think, was measles. I think that still took like 4 years for measles. And this one, we've got it in a year. That's insane. That doesn't happen. and they can't get it out fast enough for me. But I'm going to wait my turn, and when it's time to get it, my doctor says yes, you should get it. Because I'm allergic to bioxin. It's a kind of antibiotic, but it hasn't kept me from getting any other vaccine. I'm fine with it. As long as my doctor says, yeah, get it, I'll be first in line. Hey, give it. Let me be on my way. I'll protect myself. And, let's get there. And we're just a few months away from that. People could just hang on a little longer. I know it's tough.
I wish people had the same mindset as you and me on this. I feel like everyone is so divided on this. I mean, Trump didn't really help much either, but I mean, being honest, I just read something where he didn't. What was it? It was like he didn't order enough doses of the vaccine. Yeah. And we're going to be in this longer because he didn't act fast enough. And this all started because he didn't act fast enough. He didn't do the mask stuff. Like, it's just, there's so much that we could talk about. But, I just hope this ends soon. Like, they're talking about us going back to normal, like June or July or something like that. Which
possible, yeah. They're rolling it out as fast as they can get their hands on it. And then obviously there are tiers of people that come first, as they should. So you and I will get it when everybody else has had their shot, and that's probably going to be late spring, I would think. And by late summer, I got to figure, if we do this right, by late summer, I think maybe everybody who wants it will have had their chance to get it. And if we can hit like 70-80%, I think you get herd immunity then. And then I'm telling you this, by the time the NFL season starts for 2021, you might see stadiums full of people again. You just might. Maybe. I don't want to make any predictions. But at the very least, I think you might be able to go see a movie. I think you'll be able to go out shopping. You'll be able to go out, see your friends, just do all the things you were doing before. And then when you see a stadium of 50,000 people, and nobody has to wear a mask, then okay, we're back to where we were.
I don't know if it's just me, but I miss the movie so much. I miss it.
I miss them hard, very much. I have even considered renting an entire theater out so my family and I can go see a movie. Because you can do that. There are certain theaters that will let you do it. And I thought, you know what? I've had a good year. Maybe I just need to take the hit and take my family. Like, we have a pod with my wife's parents, my in-laws. They don't go anywhere. They're older and they're fine. So we're able to go back and forth. And I was thinking I might just need to spend the extra money and rent out the whole theater so we can all go see a movie together. And I haven't done it yet, but I might. We'll see.
Terribly. I'm scared. When I see on the news that like movie theaters are are going bankrupt or they're struggling, I get nervous. I don't like streaming. I hate streaming like a lot. I have everything that I can get physically. I own physically, my DVDs, my games, and my TV shows. Everything. I just don't want to go streaming because I just love the experience of walking into the experience of walking in or like walking out. It's amazing. It's an experience like none other.
You're not the only person that feels that way, and because of that, I think movie theaters will come back, because we aren't the only people that love the experience of buying your ticket, walking into this nice air-conditioned theater with these beautiful seats, getting your popcorn, sitting there, seeing the coming attractions, seeing the trailers, and then feeling the lights go down and feeling that nothing else is going to happen here. As long as some idiot next to me puts his phone away and turns it on vibrate, I'm going to get to have an experience, and I'm not going to be distracted by anything else. I'm shutting out everything. I'm shutting out the world for this. And I have the ticket stub for every movie I've seen since the summer of 1986. So that's how much I love movies. I've saved them all. And, there's one I lost. The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone. For some reason, I misplaced it, and I don't have it. That's the one movie I don't have. But I have everything since Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. I've saved them. And so that's how much I love the experience of going to a movie. And I think because there are people out there like us, that theaters will come back because it's a social thing to do. People want to go out, meet each other, have a bite to eat, see the movie, go out afterwards, talk about what they just saw. It's very social. It's very communal. It's like a church. You want to get together with these other people and have this common experience that makes you feel more than just a bag of meat, that makes you feel as though you are a part of the human experience. And any movie can do that for you. So that's why I think theaters, they're hurting right now because obviously they can only have so many people, but they'll come back. In my opinion, I think they'll come back.
Yeah, me too, most definitely.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that you do that I'm a major fan of. So you have done this thing on YouTube called the Edgecast. I love it. It's amazing. You do a great job with your platform. I enjoy the interviews you do and the games that you play. What inspired you to start that?
That was, when Apex came out, it was in February of 2019. I didn't play the game. I was vaguely aware that it was out, but otherwise I didn't bother playing it. I just had other things to do. And then around May, my brother said, this is a really fun game. You should try playing it. Your character's fun. I said, okay. So I started playing it. I was terrible at it. Of course, it's a hard game to learn. And then I discovered through my Xbox that if you wanted, you can record the last several minutes just on your Xbox. You can capture it. So I started capturing footage of me playing the game and being awful at it. And I thought that was funny, the fact that I'm a voice in the game and I'm terrible at the game. And so I did me playing the game, basically sucking at it, and I put that up on Reddit, and it got a lot of responses. So I started doing it regularly. I would make these videos, and I would edit them, and then I'd start putting little credits in there, and I'd start doing the Pathfinder voice, and people started to notice it. I thought, oh, you can stream, and people might actually watch, and so sometime around, I think, June or July of last year, I started streaming on Mixer, and I called it the Edge Voice Streamcast because it's not a stream if I'm playing and I'm talking to people. I thought, all right, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a stream. It's a streamcast, yay! And I called it Edge Voice because my first email address was Edge Voice. That was my email handle. Because I thought, oh, well, I'm a voice actor. My name is Chris Edgerly. Edge Voice, that works. And then when I got successful enough in voice acting that I got to incorporate, which is what you do, you become a business. That way you're able to, basically for tax reasons, you're able to write off your expenses that have to do with your job. And so it's just a smart move for anybody who's worked enough. So I decided to call my corporation Edge Voice. So I thought, all right, everything I do that has to do with voice acting or creating something is kind of revolving around this. So it's the Edge Voice Streamcast. And then I realized I wanted to start interviewing other people in the game. I thought, well, let me interview people that don't work on the game, just people in general. And of course, the people that I have watching me on YouTube are there because of Apex. There are some that because they're there because they like voice acting, and some of them like some of the interviews I do. But I've noticed that as I've interviewed non-Apex people, the viewership just plummets. It's like, yeah, that's a fascinating, interesting interview you have there. When are you going to talk about grappling? When are you gonna get the next legend on? They want one thing from me on YouTube, and so I'm busy pivoting away from that, and I'm basically saying I'm going to take 1% of you with me to this next thing I do. And the other 99% are just going to sit there waiting for me to post another gameplay video. But that's kind of how it's evolved. It was at a certain point I was streaming 4 days a week, and I just couldn't make that work anymore, because even though it was only like 2 hours at a time, I wanted to treat it like it was my own little talk show. And I just got too busy with other things, and I've taken it down to, I was doing 1 day a week in the last couple of weeks, just playing with subs. And in the new year, I'm going to stream occasionally, but it's not going to be that much. I'm going to do different content. So the Edge Voice Streamcast is going to kind of pivot to a different kind of content. And I'll basically start over from scratch with probably a new, different YouTube channel that's going to be actually more about stuff like this, just interviews and and different kinds of video content that I upload. And every now and then I'll do an Apex video and I'll put it on the old Chris Edgerly, aka the Edge Voice stuff and all that. It's a great thing about YouTube. You can just create different channels.
My YouTube channel used to be MCOC_Josh. I hate that username so much. People used to make fun of me all the time for it. I had to change it immediately. But this is the YouTube. This interview, when I edit it, is gonna go on the Jantmor YouTube channel. It's a whole different thing now. Like it's interviews, and breaking news and stuff. I want to do so much different with it, like you want to do with your channel. So,
right.
How did you come up with the logo and intro for it? Because that's so cool to me. I love the intro, and your logo is just amazing. I love it.
Oh well, thank you. And that is my brother doing that. So I would say that.
Welcome back. What happened?
Sorry, I was moving
I don't know what
on my desk. I accidentally closed out the window, so I severed the connection because.
Okay, I thought I did.
No, you didn't do anything. I'm just an idiot. But that happens. Yeah. So as far as the logo and the intro, that's all my brother. That's his gamer tag is Pappy Dave, but it's my brother David, and he's my older brother. I've got 3 brothers. And they all have these things they can do, that set them apart. And his thing is he's a great artist. He can sculpt, he can draw, he can paint, he can build things with his hands. He's really a Renaissance man in that regard. So I'll come up with an idea, and he can just I sketched this out on a little piece of paper, and I said I'd love it if I had sort of this smiley face with the flat cap and the headphones and the this and that. And then he turns it into something beautiful. And then he says, how about we have this little flourish with it? And I'll give him a note here and there. And he just creates it. So the look of my stream and the look of my videos is Pappy Dave. That's all him. And so he's the architect of that.
Shout out to your brother. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yep.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to enter the best part of the interview, in my opinion. The funnest part most people enjoy. Weird and wacky is something I introduced recently, where I ask you random and wacky questions, and they're rapid fire, and you have a minute to answer them. No one has gotten to 15 questions. The closest that has come to answering all 15 has been Tara Platt, who has reached the record of 12 questions answered. Will you beat Tara Platt?
I will try. How long do we have?
A minute.
A minute. Rapid fire. All right. I'll do my best.
I'll start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Longest time period without taking a shower?
3.5 weeks when I was 14 years old. Don't judge.
Nastiest food you've ever eaten?
Beets.
Food you refuse to cook?
Vegetables.
Food that will never taste good?
Beets.
Favorite video game?
Apex Legends.
Favorite movie?
Lawrence of Arabia.
Would you rather eat 1,000 bees or 1,000 scorpions?
1,000 bees.
Weirdest drink you've ever drunk?
Eggnog.
Weirdest food you've ever eaten? Oh, I asked that already.
Gotta add time.
You added time. Superpower you'd want?
Flight.
A game that you would like to be in?
The Last of Us.
Worst smelling cologne?
Dracar Noir.
And time. Good. I think you got, without me messing up royally like that, I think you got I want to say around 9 or 10. I'm gonna count back and tell you if you beat Tara. Now here's my last question that I always end off my interviews. Just before I ask this, I would like to say thank you again so much. This has been such a joy to be talking to you. I wanted to bring you on a while ago, but I was very anxious about bringing you on because I was like, oh, he's got his Streamcast. He's not going to say yes. And then I asked and you said yes. So it's such an honor to be speaking to you right now. And thank you for being a part of this. And I appreciate this forever. Thank you.
I appreciate you. It's my honor to be a part of your world. And that's what this is all about. We're creators. We create things and we connect with each other. And it's a big community, but it's a community. We should treat it like that.
Right. What is your current message to the world during these current times that we live in? Obviously, we have a whole pandemic going on. People are scared. We have protests going on around the world. What would you say to people who are feeling anxious and scared and are in need of hope?
That you're not the only ones. That we all are anxious. We're all scared. When this thing hit, I thought, is this how we end? Is this how we go out with this? By panicking? I thought, no, that can't be the way. That can't be the way. There are smart people in the world, and even the not so smart people sometimes are mature. So it ain't all about brains. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about stepping back from your reaction and saying to yourself, what would be a good way to get through this? Well, not fighting with each other, seeing it from another person's point of view, and not letting the people who are going to profit off of us fighting with each other get away with it. And so I always encourage people to sort of step away from your tribe for a minute. It's great to be a part of a tribe. It really is. We're wired to want to be a part of a group. But sometimes being a part of that group demands that you demonize another group. And that's not the way, because that just leads to warfare. It just does. It starts with a war of words, and after that, that's not enough. And then you're throwing rocks, and then it's worse. So you have to occasionally step out of your tribe, and you have to join the human tribe and realize that nobody has a monopoly on wisdom. And I always say this, ask yourself what you believe about anything. Now, why do you believe it? Now, look at the strongest possible argument against that belief. And then third, under what circumstances would you change your mind? So, think about what you believe. Think about the strongest argument against it, and then think, under what circumstances would I change my opinion? And be honest with yourself. If you can do that, then you'll be fine. If everyone did that, if everyone looked at the strongest argument for and against their position, and imagined a scenario where they could change their mind, we'll be okay. We'll get through it. We'll get through it. Because there's too much money being made off of pitting people against each other. We see it in social media. Yeah. We see it with musicians. They'll have a beef with each other, and it's totally fabricated. It's totally made up. They say to each other, let's go make some money. Let's go make some money. Now, if they can do that, you think politicians can't do that? You think large companies can't do that? You think news organizations can't do that? They do it every day. Just realize that when you're having a reaction against some stupid thing some other person said, realize that someone's making money off your reaction, and it ain't you. So don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Some stuff is true. Some people are awful, and they should be treated like awful people. They should be marginalized. But a lot of this is
Hidan.
Yeah. You know, leave them in the forest. I don't mean be violent with them. I mean, just get them out of your headspace. They don't belong in your head. But some people are just misinformed, and they don't know. And sometimes you got to be the bigger person and say, hey, look, tell me what you think. Tell me why. Would you like to hear why I think what I do? Can we examine the ways where we're alike? And then next thing you know, that person's not just some random avatar. They're another human being who has a job, who has rent, who has a kid, who maybe has a parent that is sick, or a friend that died because of something, you know, that they don't believe in anymore, and they're hurting. So we're all hurting. And so if you can transcend these negative responses we have to it and see that there is humanity on the other side, we'll be okay.
Yes, sir. All right.
Love you, babe.
So I'm going to read. Thank Chris. That was amazing. That was well said. I always love to end off these interviews with that question. I feel it's very important, especially during these times. And with mental health, a very important topic, especially right now. It's always an important topic. I just love hearing that message, especially when I go through my phases of feeling. So Well, I will say this as an extra. If you're spending a lot of time in front of a screen, put it down and go outside with a mask on if you have to. If there are other people around. If there's no one around, just go outside and touch the grass, you know, be in nature a bit. We're not wired to just be around screens and technology all the time. Our evolutionary wiring usually means we're going to be more comfortable being outside than you would think. And you need to get away from a screen, and you need to get away from the artificial world for a while.
because it is an artificial one. It's not a real one. What you see on social media is just everyone's representation of themselves. It's not who they really are. So you need to get outside and then come back to it. You'll come back, you'll be refreshed. So everybody needs to try and find that balance.
I always try to go for a walk. Guys, that'll be the end of it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Chris, would you like to plug anything before we end off?
Keep coming by Jantmor. Josh's YouTube. Man's doing good work here. And yeah, I'm over at Chris Edgerly on Twitter, and I'm Chris Edgerly, aka the Edge Voice, on YouTube. And I'll be pivoting to some different kind of content in the new year. And in the meantime, you guys just have a great holiday and look after yourselves.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Talk to you on my next interview. Have a great day. All right.